Dave, talk to me about this offseason and just big picture after free agency, after the owners' meetings. What do you think the big theme for the Detroit Lions organization is heading into the draft? I mean, it feels like a lot, but just over the last couple of months, free agency, owners' meetings, where do you think the Detroit Lions organization is right now heading into the NFL draft in the year 2025?
Yeah, no, I think it's look, they're running it back, right? They're telling everyone that obviously they have some financial commitments long term, but they thought they had a team that could have, should have, maybe would have won the Super Bowl had they been healthy, and they're willing to bet that they can do it this year. And look, they need some pass rush help, and I think that'll be a theme, over the next couple of weeks. Like, who do they get? Where do they get it? Do they still need to make a move in sort of the trade market or with anyone else that's still out there? They certainly need to give Hutchinson some help somewhere, but ultimately, I think when you look at this team, when they report for training camp, it's going to look a whole lot like the team from last year, and they're going to say, hey, we're good enough to do it this year, and let's see what happens.
I wanted to ask you, too, about the owners' meetings, because one of the things Max Crosby signs his deal, Myles Garrett signs his deal, the Lions really didn't, I would say, fair to say, sign a big free agent this offseason, and I thought Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell really explained themselves. Well, notwithstanding DJ Reed, I'm sorry about that, defensive line. Yeah. I thought they explained that and their reasoning pretty well. What say you about that?
Yeah, and, Reed's a big name, but he just basically replaced the one big name that you lost in Carlton Davis. So sort of an even trade there. And look, I think we all knew that to be the case, right? Like the amount of contracts they had last year, the amount of guys coming up both this year, Aiden Hutchinson, Kirby Joseph, and next year, with all those guys from the 2023 draft class. But it's nice to have some clarity on it, and I think fans appreciate that. And even if you disagree with it, or think they should have done more, you can understand where they're coming from and wanting to keep guys together. And so I think it's important for, the organization to do that, to maybe not lead people on, to explain, because we've said it, I know we've talked about it here before too, like this is about cash. It's not about cap necessarily, right? You have a big outlay of cash that you have to pay people when you sign these deals. And so, there are forces at work like that just make it difficult to do both. And the Lions have certainly gone down the path of wanting to make this thing sustainable for the long term. And they believe the right way to do that is to keep all these talented players that they picked in the draft, around and make them cornerstone pieces to what they're trying to accomplish.
Hey, Dave, you've been busy, man. We've been reading your stuff every day. We appreciate it. I get the Dave Birkett alerts, so I go right to him. The other day, you put something out. Enos Rakestraw is going to be a guy they depend on. A few weeks ago, we talked about, man, how many corners are they going to sign? Are they going to trot out 8 corners and 3 defensive linemen? What the hell are they doing here, man?
Well, and we'll see how big a role, Rakestraw has. He has to earn his way, but, he'll have some opportunity here now that he's healthy. And, Kendall Vildor is coming off an injury. Amik Robertson is coming off an injury. So he should get plenty of run. I'm sorry, not Vildor. Dorsey is coming off an injury. Vildor, of course, is gone. But he'll have some opportunity here to maybe earn some playing time in OTAs and minicamp and heading into summer. Look, Braylon probably knows this or maybe saw it on some of the teams he was on. Defensive backs have the highest injury rate in the NFL. It just the way that the game is right now, and even though that position has gotten bigger, it's the size of those guys comparative to some of the others. And so, I think the Lions, as I look at the collection of talent that they have a pretty good group there. Like, there's when you add a couple of the veterans that you add this offseason, Avonte Maddox, Rock Ya-Sin, and those guys are going to be like your 5th or 6th cornerbacks. Like, you've got some pretty good depth there. So that should be enough, hopefully, to get the Lions through this season.
Hey, Dave, considering today I looked at your latest today, and this is something that always gets me. We all know that Brad Holmes.
Maz's favorite topic, by the way. Maz's favorite topic.
I know where you're going. Yeah, I know where you're going.
Hey, man, I think you wrote that for me. I mean, we all know he loves his injured players. You put out your top 3 injured draft picks. I know the first one coming from Alabama. Tell the peeps what, in case they don't want to read, tell them what they missed today.
Yeah, look, I mean, you know it. This has happened every year where Brad has taken a player with an injury history, and that player maybe has not been able to contribute as a rookie because of it, and he's betting long term. It happened with Jamison Williams, right? He didn't play much his rookie year, and now he's one of the best deep threats in the NFL. It happened with Levi Onwuzurike. They gambled that his back was going to be okay. It wasn't, and they didn't get any production out of him really until last season. Rakestraw last year, he had a hernia that he didn't do anything in the spring, and he missed a lot of the year. And so I think it's good to look ahead at some of these guys that could be on the Lions list that, maybe could fall, have the talent to go higher. But when you're the Lions, look, Maz, here's part of it, right, is like the Lions have a really good roster. And so they maybe, especially in the first round when you have 5 years on these guys, like, yep. You don't necessarily need that guy right away. So if a Jihad Campbell is there, he's coming off labrum surgery. There's no idea, when he's going to be ready, or it's not clear yet, I should say. We don't know if he'll be ready for the start of the regular season. Josh Simmons is a guy that, I've thought about that name a lot as maybe a potential first-round pick for the Lions at number 28. Offensive tackle from Ohio State, really good player. Probably a top, 12 pick if he was healthy, but he tore a patella tendon in his knee in October, and so he's going to slide down draft boards. Well, maybe the Lions are in a spot where they feel like, hey, we have the right medical staff. This is the right type of player. This is a premium talent that we can get in the 20s, and that's the type of guy that normally you would get at 14, and that guy can be an anchor for us. So, yeah, just highlighted those guys. Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame, the cornerback, was the other player I mentioned in that story. He's more of a second-round pick, but I'd certainly be keeping an eye on some of those guys if I was a Lions fan.
Cool, man.
Dave, between the mixture of picking late in the draft and this really being a boring draft, I'm not saying it's not a good draft, but as Ryan Ermanni said, and I echo this, a boring draft. It's really nothing more than the top 4. You try to find questions about this draft, so here's a question for you about the Lions. What would success look like to you for the Lions in this draft? And let's assume that down the line they go ahead and get Zadarius Smith, because I think they're pretty much going to bring him back. I think they're waiting for him to realize that the market that he thought was there wasn't and come back for a cheaper price. Let's assume they get him. What does success look like in this draft for the Lions to you?
Yeah, Bray, that's a great question, because ordinarily you say, you want 3 starters out of the draft, and they don't have to be like day one starters, but man, the Lions roster is so deep, like that just is not there. They're such a good, talented team that I think you have to judge it a little bit different. And so I don't know that I'm looking for instant impact necessarily, but it's when you can get it. Look, Brad has done a really good job of going to get his guys. He went to get Terrion Arnold. He went to get Jamison Williams. He's very convicted about the guys he drafted. Even Gibbs, right? Like, he was at 6. The guy they wanted, Devin Witherspoon, wasn't there, so he moved to a spot where he could get Gibbs at 12, and he was convicted no matter what other people said. So I'm anxious to see who that guy is that he is very convicted about this year, and if it's someone that can help them right away, because I don't think there's a lot of spots on this team that can help them right away. But hey, maybe it's a number 3 receiver, and all of a sudden you're like, or a wide receiver, and you're like, well, that tells us something about whether they're going to bring Jamison Williams back, sign him to an extension or not. So I think there are some longer-term storylines that maybe we can read into based on, even if it's a guy like Josh Simmons, right?
Yeah.
They traded to get Gio Manu last year in the 4th round because they thought he was going to be, left tackle of the future. Now they're talking about playing him at guard. Well, if they go out and draft a left tackle high, maybe that tells us something about what they want to do at that position.
Hey, Dave, this feels like, and I heard one of the national NFL draft analysts say this is a starters draft. There may not be a ton of stars in this draft, but this is a starter draft. You will find really good players, solid players here. Does that feel like a draft that sets right up and lines up for the Detroit Lions being to what they need overall to kind of sustain this success?
Yeah, I think, Yes, because obviously Brad has done a good job of getting players, regardless of position, that have some starting value and can be long-term contributors for them. Braylon was right. There's 4 players at the top of this draft, and really there's 2 players, right?
Yeah.
Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter, and depending on how you view the quarterbacks, and then there's a few other guys, right? Mason Graham's a really good player, and Ashton Genty, and so there's a few other guys, but that list of blue chip or almost blue chip talents just isn't very long this year. So after you get past that, I think it really is going to tell you a little bit about the eye for talent evaluation and the ability to develop that talent that those organizations have, and certainly the Lions have done a good job with both of those things the past 4 seasons.
Hey, Dave, last one. What's your take on all the number changes? I know Ryan and I kind of complained about it, like, hey, I just bought a jersey. Now you're changing the numbers. What's your take on all of that?
My take is I got my son an Amon-Ra jersey for Christmas, or Santa did. He's not listening, I'm sorry, but Santa got him an Amon-Ra jersey for Christmas. And the jerseys that he wanted were Amon-Ra, Gibbs and Brian Branch. And I'm just happy Santa did not get him a Jameer Gibbs jersey.
Me too.
That's not good anymore. So look, I feel for people that maybe bought that jersey that don't maybe need to get a new one now, or the number isn't the same. I guess that's life in the NFL. Can't fault these guys too much. They all have reasons they want to go back to these numbers, but I do feel for the fan that maybe misses out because of that.
Hey, our friend Dan Katowski wanted me to let you know that Jack Birkett is getting a detention for an unexcused absence now at Orchard Lake. So sorry, buddy.
Yeah, no, that's all right. He's going to have to deal with it.
Right, exactly.
You got to learn about decisions.
The parent is always right. Dave, thanks so much. We can't thank you enough, my friend. Great stuff as always, and we'll look forward to talking to you down the road. Check in with Dave,
Thanks, Dave.
On X at Dave Birkett, of course, Freep.com, and buy the book. Detroit Lions, an illustrated timeline, anywhere books are sold. 4-time Michigan Sports Writer of the Year. Pretty good stuff there. Is that great or what?